Spoilers. There are spoilers ahead. Don't watch this video unless you have watched Supernatural up until the final season, season 15, and seen the third episode. This theory, analysis, and prediction will discuss major events from that episode, and I know how touchy this fanbase and others can be with spoilers such as this one, because guess what? It finally happened. Fate has reached the core cast, and the flirtatious Scotswoman we all enjoy has died. Hello, I'm the Theorizer, and Rowena McLeod is dead. Or is she? Her body may be dead, but of course her spirit has entered the next phase of existence by landing itself in hell. Alongside the thousands of souls she is responsible for re-damning. Hot damn, her soul is in a bit of a pickle. How will she face these ghosts down under? Well, I suppose we'll know soon enough, considering the fact that I can't let anything be what it wants to be, and I look up all of the technical details of upcoming episodes. Now, on the Supernatural Wiki, the fanbase's hotbed of information, according to multiple peer-reviewed edits, Rowena's actress is slated to return in the 6th episode of this season. Either that means she'll be in flashbacks, or more likely, we'll see her ghostly fate. Knowing this information ahead of time, and knowing how hell works in Supernatural, I couldn't really get into the idea of her dying and going away, considering her soul is still a thing, hell is still a thing, and, well, she's slated to appear. We'll see her again, assuming this information is correct. I mean, it hasn't been revoked, and preserved info here has rarely ever been wrong. But here's the thing. Before episode 3 aired, I saw the promo and knew what they were going to do. They were going to kill Rowena in the episode, and then return her as a spirit or a demon in the later one. In all of my supernatural theories, I get things about half right most of the time, and in June 2017, when Rowena seemed to officially die after being burnt to a crisp and beaten in during the season 12 finale, I made a theory where I predicted that Rowena, the second having entered hell for good, would rise the ranks to become a demon who'd basically rule the place with magic and a respectable grip. That is still likely, and I think that in some capacity, this will happen. Maybe she'll meet Arthur Ketch down there too, but that's enough about Rowena. We need to move on to the many other questions about what will happen this season. This season, Jack's body was almost immediately infiltrated by a very clearly suspicious demon known as Belphegor. Surprise, surprise, he's another smug, inferior demon after the throne of the universe? Not just hell, everything. Castiel tried that in season 7 to no avail, but Belphegor attempts it, and is promptly burnt to murdered ash by Castiel's vengeance. I see lots of complaints from people who don't understand the pattern of these writers. For example, the second episode of the season was rated very poorly by its own fans on IMDb, but it's a very necessary stepping stone episode. A lot of people see Castiel as pointlessly weakened, but his nerfing is truly purposeful, or at least I hope it is. Maybe he'll return with his power a little more intact and somehow get his wings back, even with his severe weaknesses lately. And he has taken a beating. It's quite true. Anyways, back to Belphegor. He claims to be a torturer in hell, and I was hoping they'd reveal his eye color was white or something, because, you know, that would be very meaningful given those burnt-out sockets seeming to build to some form of tension. Maybe he's still alive, who knows, but they did erase him really quick. Quickly, onto the title card. In it, we see, well, at first, I was excited because it seems to be some sort of Big Bang, splattering the empty into either hell or general creation itself. That, or it could possibly represent Sam's god wound. Perhaps Sam will become god and recreate the universe with another Big Bang so that the created can lead the creations. Whoa! Calm the f*** down, Theorizer. Yes, comment section, I do crank things past 11 quite frequently. So of course, speaking of God, what is going to happen with him, the darkness, Jack, Billy, and the Empty? This is the season's actual main plot. Well, in episode 2, I was delighted to see more of Amara, which I was expecting to see, but I'd hoped to see more than just that. She was pretty meh throughout the episode until the very end, which was just well, for lack of a better term, savage. She roasts Chuck and abandons him in Reno. She becomes the true neutral she needed to be, but Chuck is still very smug and snarky. Most of my predictions about Amara from my Season 14 finale theory still remain, but the big question that I and everyone else has at least asked once, is Chuck actually God? Is Amara actually a relevant thing that exists? Is the true creator of everything, including God and Amara, actually above it all? Episode 2 appeared to prove that Chuck is God and Amara is his opposite by displaying them in an isolated environment, but the big question is, are they both fake proxies devised by a balanced, true God, even they don't know exists? Despite that being a great concept, I'm not too sure. The shadow of the empty would have been the only thing this super god had created for eons prior to Chuck and Amara, so it seems overall less and less likely. But the one sci-fi trope Supernatural has pretty much left unexplored is higher dimensions. Understandable, unless you're a show like Twin Peaks, this concept is near impossible to represent compellingly. And I'm not talking about Castiel and God occasionally throwing an offhand comment about how they're 11th dimensional strings of light or whatever they be spouting off. I'm talking dimensions that they are operatively locked into as well. Hardcore temporal spatial laws of our universe. They've included 4th dimensional time travel, and I think up to what is especially often in fiction considered to be the 6th dimension, the multiverse, which I think they've said we might be seeing more of this season, as expected, so if we might be exploring higher and higher states of existence, the notion that a separate multiverse exists could be fathomable, and therefore a being who governs the omniverse that Chuck is still beneath. While I don't know if it's entirely the case in quantum physics, it's very possible in fiction for the omniverse to perhaps be represented by something akin to the 8th dimension, which if I recall is sort of like having different initial conditions for a universe, instead of being a simple branching split like a normal multiverse. I have a nice little way of visualizing what I mean in this fictional scenario, regardless of whether it's how a quantum theorist would do it IRL. Super God is in the center, and each angle blasting out to create its own set of universes is a sub-god like Chuck, a variant initial condition of its own respective prong. So if there is a super god in Supernatural, they'd probably need to display or at least imply 8 to 10 fictional dimensions, lest they rather instead desire something more like the box, which is an all and self-encompassing and repeating omniverse containment concept. Perhaps another multiverse will be the savior of this one, given that Sam and Dean are the cornerstone characters representing Chuck's multiverse, but clearly wouldn't be the same crucial piece as heading another sub-god's multiverse. What in the mother of all quantum entanglement tangential shits? I need to get back on track here. So yeah, either God and Amara are, as the show says they are, or things are about to get really wild. Michael, on the other hand, is an immediate focus. Now, I predicted last season that they would let him out, which they did not. Instead, Chuck flung open every door, including the ones locking Lucifer's cage. This means the withered Michael and even more withered Adam have escaped, possibly possessed as one. I foresee Adam being cosmically pissed off in quite a brainless manner. Michael, well, I don't actually know what his intentions will be following what converts to around 1,200 years of unyielding torment inside of a hellbox of inconceivable terror. Back to Jack. The big question we need to answer will hopefully also be the big final mid-season cliffhanger to ponder, and that question is, what will happen with Jack, Billy, and the Shadow? How will it tie into Chuck's other universes, and how will it tie into the literal tie between Sam and Chuck? Well, my prior predictions are still valid assumptions. The created will govern themselves at the discretion of Billy. Whether that be Sam, Jack, or Castiel doing the head governing, I don't know. I'm hoping to see more familiar faces this season, but right now, I just want cathartic closure upon arc after arc. The writers are keeping wonderful track of their loose ends, and if it's at all possible that they are watching this analysis, the only way to go bigger at this point truly is higher dimensions. Ones the main characters cannot and could never ever even prior conceive of. If you want to get meta, we, the viewers, are always one dimension above whatever is being portrayed in the show, and the writers one above us. Makes for the neatest metafiction they'd ever have done. Dreamwalkers like Kai and Neves can see the multiverse from above, and people like Jack, God in the Darkness, can traverse them if trained and aware. Makes me wonder how and why said Dreamwalkers even exist, and when we'll get one final arc dedicated to discussing the bad place. As for loose ends we really need to see play out, collapse heaven and reveal the supernatural nature of Earth to all of humanity. For real this time? I asked on Twitter for more questions because I often discuss things that I assume to be common knowledge but later realize could probably use some actual discussion. Twitter user at AnnaCat1617 asked, of course, the big one, How did the gun hurt Chuck? Well, God saw Jack as a threat, and clearly Billy seems to think Jack will be useful, likely because he has the capability to have a similar power level to God. That pesky narcissism, though, he couldn't resist the juiciness of having Dean kill Jack, so he created a weapon capable of killing any member of basically an omnipotent power level, like himself or the Darkness. This foolishness came right back at him, and he was so cocky that he failed to realize the gun could be used against himself. It was shot non-lethally at his shoulder, which, as I predicted last season, is just the sort of ticking clock fate these writers employ time and time again. The only pattern more recurrent than this is the emotional dissonance the main cast gets when they lie to each other for their own protection, and there goes Castiel again because Dean doesn't know who to blame. Either this equalizer gun was designed to kill very slowly, or it was just, not lethal to the shoulder. Because it was used to wound instead of kill, it festers and spreads, a weakness unfamiliar to Chuck, which seeps his being out and into Sam, an equal and opposite reaction that the gun was designed for by cocky Chuck. My question is, what will Sam be by the end of this? We know those little future red flash forward things. I'm pretty sure they're from a different universe. Or it could be God or Lucifer, but here's an idea. Here's a crazy idea. What if Sam becomes the same power level as God and ends up dying and then existing inside of the Empty, a timeless location of dark black expanse where everything and nothing simultaneously always and never exists? Sam becomes the shadow, and infinite eons of emptiness creates what we see today. Popping into the Empty with that power level triggered time's existence and spawned the instantaneous existence of God and Amara, creating Supernatural as a story where, even with God, the beginning of the universe was nothing more than humanity's own intervention. That's nuts, and I doubt it, but these writers said they wanted to make a final season that's better than Game of Thrones, and in Game of Thrones, spoiler alert, the leading theory in the final season that was built up was that Bran traveled back and became the primary evil threat. It would be metafictitiously poetic, intentional or not, and the humanity-created existence waiting to be born of God trope is as well. Or, Sam could just be dying alongside God. In a very serious way. Updating this script right now, they've released the Rowena-slated episode synopsis, and they do claim a familiar friend returns, calling it literally 1000% indeed. It's also followed by a week-long break, which implies it'll be an important episode, though I foresee the mid-season being truly insane, revolving around the collapse of Heaven and Michael, considering all that has so far been implied about that episode's info. God might scramble to recreate angels by trying to superficially redeem himself, but Jack made some human angels last season, so much still can be done. And that's the most substantial brainstorm I got out of reading my followers' tweets. You should definitely follow me at the Theorizer YT on Twitter. I see everything you send me on there. So this organized-ish video has updated my predictions. I will comment anything further and pin it, without editing the comments, which will timestamp my updated predictions for all to see. Make sure to subscribe for more Supernatural. Ring the bell, too. I'm also covering similar shows like The 100 and more sci-fi. Lots of cartoon theories, though, lately. People seem to absolutely dig those. Until next time, I'm the Theorizer.